Welcome back to the David67 Celtic News YouTube channel. Today, Tuesday the 7th of September. Fairly quiet news day again in terms of Celtic. A few rumours circulating. Of course, the women's team, excuse me, yesterday lunchtime, early afternoon, won their initial Champions League qualifier, beating Bromby 1-0. And so we'll be playing in a second playoff against Valerenga of Norway on Saturday at 7 o'clock. Quite a number of the Celtic squad off on international duty, but around 20 players remaining at Lennoxtown for training or treatment, and a couple of contract signings, proposed contract renegotiations, and also a rather unsettling story that Celtic are in the race or interested in signing a free agent left back. So all those I'll try to cover in the next 15 minutes or so. Before I get going, please like and subscribe. Let's try and get the subscriber numbers up to 100 by the end of this international window. And we'll be popping a little quiz question into the community section after I finish this video. Also today, going to have a little section on our two young South Korean attackers who are currently away on full international duty with South Korea under the management of Jurgen Klinsmann. So, as I was saying, a few news stories circulating around Celtic. The first is a rather unsettling rumour that Celtic are again looking at signing Ryan Bertrand, who is a free agent, to cover for left back as a supposed upgrade on Greg Taylor and Burnaby. Bertrand is 34, was released by Leicester at the end of the 22-23 season. He has hardly played any football since the 2021 season, and in fact has only played 11 games in that period for Leicester prior to being released. He spent most of his time at Leicester injured and has a rather poor injury record over his career. 10 years ago, he was an England international playing for Chelsea in Champions League, and around that time would have been a great left back for Celtic. There are stories that Man United were also looking at signing him, and given that they signed Johnny Evans as a free agent from Leicester, I suppose there may be some truth to that rumour. However, that fell apart. No other teams have come in for him. No other teams have made any form of offer to him in the 4 months or so since he was released by Leicester. And I think that is a good indication as to why I hope Celtic don't go anywhere near signing Bertrand at left back. A lot of folk have felt that Greg Taylor has not performed as well as expected this year, which appears to be the case, and he has struggled to adapt back to Brendan Rodgers' style, having prospered greatly in the Ange Postecoglou model and the inverted fullback role. However, he does remain, I think, a good player. He has shown flashes of good performance this season, A lot of people criticised him in the game on Sunday when we beat Rangers. I thought he played fine. Don't think he made any errors as such. Celtic did not really experience much threat down the right side until after he went off with an injury, although he was helped out by Dyson Maida keeping the Rangers right back and right-sided midfielders quite quiet. However, I think Taylor is a perfectly fine fullback. To cover the Scottish games, he may well struggle in Europe. However, he has performed perfectly fine when playing for Scotland internationally at left back on the few occasions he has, and did actually learn the new system under Postecoglou very effectively, and I think he has the same potential to adapt and learn the Rodgers system. So I think Taylor's a perfectly fine stopgap at left back to see how he does under the Rodgers system, and then that can be reviewed in the next transfer window if needed. Talking of left back, Celtic have signed the 17-year-old left back who is in the B team in the Lowland League called Mitchell Frame, 17. He apparently has been highly sought after by many English Premier League clubs, trying to take him away for simply a compensation fee. However, he has signed a new contract taking him up to 2026, at which point he will be 20, and he has been at Celtic since he was 10 years old and has developed through the system. He's currently playing in the B team, as I was saying, and in the under-19 squad currently with on international duty. He potentially has the ability to come into Celtic's team in the future, although I wouldn't be too surprised if he doesn't go out on loan in the second half of this season or go out on a season-long loan in the 24-25 season rather than coming straight into Celtic's first-team squad. I think it has been one of the deficiencies under recent Celtic management of not bringing through our youth players and our B team players, which caused us to lose both Ben Doak and off to Liverpool and Morrison off to Bayern Munich, and may well see us lose Rocco Vata off to either Notts Forest or to Italian Serie A teams such as Torino. Again, further contract talks are about to be started, it's said, to sign Rio Hatate to an extension at a higher wage, and it is also said that Celtic are planning similar talks to sign Matt O'Riley on an extended increased contract. I think both of these would be excellent moves, so that Celtic retain them for the next 4 or 5 years, which is going to be very helpful in terms of team continuity. And I think they are both excellent players, and O'Riley seems to have improved significantly since Rodgers came in, and arguably has been Celtic's best player this season over the several matches. Part of the reason that Celtic can afford to give these two players increased contracts is that happily we have got rid of Ayeti, who was on £1 million a year, and Ismail Osoro, who was on £500,000 a year as their yearly annual salaries. Having got rid of both of them in this recent transfer window, This obviously is taking quite considerable amount of money off the weekly wage bill of £32,000 to be exact, and it looks like Celtic are reinvesting that in their star players to try and ensure the future and team progression. One other story that is circulating is that following Scott Brown being sacked by Fleetwood Town in England as their manager, there are rumours that he may well be joining Brendan Rodgers' coaching staff at Celtic. When the appointment of Rodgers was first suggested a couple of months ago, and when there was uncertainty as to how many of Celtic's coaching staff were going to go with Postecoglou to Tottenham, there was a story that Celtic were exploring taking Scott Brown from Fleetwood to come back to Celtic as Rodgers' assistant manager. However, with John Kennedy staying, that fell by the wayside. But there are several rumours and stories that Brendan Rodgers is going to offer Scott Brown a position as coach to improve his coaching skills and to learn under Rodgers. Scott Brown obviously was a very, very popular player at Celtic, a tremendous servant and captain to the club, and I think he would actually be a good addition to the coaching staff and may well, in time, become a future Celtic manager. So, a couple more things to cover before we finish today. As I was saying at the top of the video, Celtic's women beat Bromby 1-0 in the first Champions League qualifier. They now play Valerenga on Saturday at 7 o'clock in the evening. Valerenga will be at home in Oslo as this initial two Champions League qualifiers are played at the home stadium of one of the four clubs involved. Looking at comparisons, Valerenga last year were second in the Norwegian Women's League, but currently lie top of their division. However, they have been performing less well in the last 10 fixtures or so, with a couple of defeats and a couple of draws, and are not in the best of form. They, similar to Celtic, have not reached the group stages of the Women's Champions League previously, and a couple of years ago they managed to win their first two qualifiers, but then lost in the two-legged playoff that followed, and so failed to qualify for the main group stages. I think Celtic's women are in tremendous form at the moment. They have a lot of players who can score goals, a lot of very creative players. However, I think the home advantage for Valerenga shouldn't be underestimated, but I am very hopeful that the Celtic team will win out on Saturday and then move through to the two-legged playoffs, which would make them one step away from the main group stages. And final thing is that recent interviews with Jurgen Klinsmann, the South Korea manager, indicates he is extremely impressed with Yang and Oh, two of our three South Korean players, and Yang and Oh are currently with Klinsmann and the full South Korean international team. Yang is yet to play for the full South Korean team, but Oh has had 5 caps previously. although he is yet to score a goal for South Korea. Yang joined us in the summer transfer window, and he has had 4 appearances, 3 as a substitute, with 1 assist and no goals so far. O, of course, joined us the previous year and has played 16 games and scored 7 goals for Celtic. O being 22 and Yang being 21, and so I think they both are players who will get better and better. O has primarily been playing coming off the bench, and has done generally well. He is more of a threat in the air than Kyogo or any of our other players who can play through the middle, and so does give that variation, and would potentially be a player that Kyogo could play off of, similar to the Sutton, Hartson with Larsson partnership that was so successful under Martin O'Neill in the early 2000s. Yang has shown a lot of skill. He is a very pacey player, and set up the 3rd goal at Aberdeen for O'Riley with some very clever, intricate footwork on as he drove into the box. He also had a couple of excellent runs against Rangers at the weekend, but did kind of stumble and fall and fail when he got into the box. And there was an attempt by O to set up Yang, which also fell flat. But I think these are 2 players that have a lot of potential for Celtic and will get better and better. I think for the meantime, O will have much more of a chance to have regular time playing for Celtic, primarily as the substitute backup for Kyogo. Yang will need to compete with Palma, Tilio, Abada, Maeda for the wide positions. I've popped into the description for this video a couple of highlight scouting reels for Yang and a couple of highlight scouting reels for O. And going through the scouting reels and highlight reels for Yang, clearly is a player who is 2-footed, although primarily right-footed, can play right and left, and also can play down the middle. Going through his scouting reports, finishing and scoring goals was an area that he was deficient in. Although from the highlights reel, I think they pretty much must have all the goals he ever scored in South Korean football. And he does appear actually to be quite a calm finisher. He is a player who I think Celtic could use in 3 roles: wide right, wide left, or playing through the middle. And also, given that he is able to play through the middle, I also feel that he would be a good player, such as Abada, Maeda, in getting into the box, coming off their wing to support Kyogo or O, and also supporting the midfielders breaking forward as well. So, hopefully, O settles down. Yang settles down as O seems to have settled down, and the fact that Yang and Kwon and O are all currently playing for Celtic, it may allow all 3 of them to settle better into the country, and for them not to have the difficulties that Kobayashi appears to have had. So, as I said, I've popped the highlight scouting reels for O and Yang into the video description section that goes with this video, and hope you enjoy that. and see that what skills Yang potentially is going to bring to us once he returns from South Korean international duty. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching today. Please like and subscribe. Have a wee go at the quiz question and chat again tomorrow. And so, goodbye and hail, hail.